Hello, hello. We're back. It's the same night. I just keep moving the camera angle slightly bit by bit so that we lose all sense of continuity. I'm determined now that everything's set up and I'm here and I enjoy this book. I'm determined to finish this chapter out. So when I first posted, I said, oh yeah, this is like part 1 of 2. Then it was like, oh, it's part 2 of 3 actually. And hopefully this will be the last installment of chapter 3. Fingers crossed. If you're stumbling upon this out of order somehow, I don't know how, because I only have like 36 followers. But if you are, I'm reading this book here, Let's Pretend This Never Happened, by Jenny Lawson, the Bloggess. I do not have permission to read it, but I'm doing it anyway because I like it. I am mid-chapter as she's listing out things that, and I quote, things that, on a list of things that most people have never experienced or could have possibly even imagined, but totally happened to me. And we are at number 7. Number 7. Most people don't have a professional taxidermist for a father. When I was little, my father used to sell guns and ammo at a sporting goods store. But I always told everyone he was an arms dealer because it sounded more exciting. Eventually, though, he saved up enough money to quit his job and build a taxidermy shop next to our house, which was tiny and built out of asbestos back when people still thought that was a good thing. Oops, sorry. I'm wiggling us. Excuse me. My dad built the taxidermy shop himself out of old wood from abandoned barns and did a remarkable job, fashioning it to look exactly like a Wild West saloon, complete with swinging doors and gas lights and a hitching post for horses. Then he hired a bunch of guys to work for him, many of whom looked to me as if they were fresh from prison or just about to go back in. I can't help feeling sorry for the confused strangers who would wander onto my father's taxidermy shop, expecting to find a bar and a stiff drink, and who instead found several rough-looking men my father had hired, covered in blood and elbow-deep in animal carcasses. I suspect, though, that the blood-covered taxidermists probably shared their personal flasks with the baffled strangers. Because, although they seemed slightly dangerous, they were invariably good-hearted, and I'm very certain they recognized that anyone stumbling into that kind of scene would probably need a strong drink, even more than when they'd first set out looking for a bar to begin with. Not the most wildest start. What else? Number 8. Most people don't have their childhood pets eaten by homeless people. When I was 5, my dad had won a duckling for me at the carnival. We named him Daffodil, and he lived in the backyard in an inflatable raft that we filled with water. He was awesome. Then he got too big to live comfortably in the raft, so we set him loose under the nearby town bridge so he could be with all the other ducks. We sang, "Born Free," and he seemed very happy as he waddled away. A month later, the local news ran a story on the fact that all of the ducks in the river had gone missing and had been eaten by homeless people living under the bridge. It was apparently a bad neighborhood for ducks. I stared, wide-eyed, at my mom as I stammered out, "Hobos ate my daffodil." My mom stared back with a tightened jaw, wondering whether she should just lie to me, but instead she decided it was time to stop protecting me from real life, and sighed, saying, "It sounds nicer if you call them transients, dear." I nodded mechanically. I was traumatized, but my vocabulary was improving. And here's a picture. And the caption reads, from the back of the photo, "Jenny and Daffodil. Later, he was eaten by homeless people." I mean, where's the lie? Number 9. Most people don't share a swimming pool with pigs. We live downwind from the, locally, famous Schwartz's pig farm, which is something some people might be embarrassed about. But these were show pigs. So yeah, it was pretty fucking impressive. When the wind was blowing from the west, it would smell so strong that we'd have to close the windows. But that was less because of the pigs, and more because of the nearby rendering plant. In fact, the first time my husband caught a whiff, he nearly gagged, and my mom nonchalantly said, "Oh, that's just the rendering plant," in the same way that other people might say, "Oh, that's just our gardener." And he gave me this look like, "What the fuck is a rendering plant?" And I quietly explained that a rendering plant is a factory where they compost old flowers because that sounds much more whimsical than "it's like a slaughterhouse, but way less classy." The Swartzes had an enormous open-air cistern that they used to water the pigs, and on special occasions, we'd get invited over to swim in the pigs' water. This is all true, people. Right here is when people begin to say, "I don't believe any of this." And I have to show them pictures or get my mom on the phone to confirm it. And then they get very quiet, probably out of respect or possibly pity. This is why I always have to clarify that although my childhood was fucked up, it was also kind of awesome. When you're surrounded by other people who are just as poor as you are, life doesn't seem all that weird. For instance, one of my friends grew up in a house with a dirt floor, and it's hard to feel too bad about your tiny asbestos house when you have the privilege of owning a carpet. Also, in my parents' defense, I never really realized that we were poor because my parents never said we couldn't afford things, just that we didn't need them. Things like ballet lessons and ponies and tap water that won't kill you. Number 10. Most people don't file wild animals. When I was about 6, my parents decided to raise chickens, but we couldn't afford a real hen house. Instead, we put some filing cabinets in the garage and opened the drawers like stair steps so the chickens could nest in them. Once, when I was out to gather the eggs, I stretched onto my tippy toes to reach the top drawer, and I felt what seemed like a misshapen egg, and that's because it was inside the belly of a gigantic fucking rattlesnake that was attempting to swallow one of the eggs. This is when I ran screaming back into the house, and my mom grabbed a rifle from the gun cabinet, and, as the escaping snake writhed down the driveway, she shot it right in the lumpy part where the egg still was, and egg exploded everywhere like some kind of terrible fireworks display. We found out later that it was actually a bull snake, just pretending to be a rattlesnake. And my mother felt a little bad about killing it, but pretending to be a rattlesnake in front of an armed mother is basically like waving a fake gun in front of a cop. Either way, you're totally going to get shot. Also, whenever I read this paragraph to people who don't live in the South, they get all hung up on the fact that we had a furniture devoted just to guns. But in rural Texas, pretty much everyone has a gun cabinet, unless they're gay. Then they have gun armoires. Most people don't have to devote an entire year of therapy to a single 10-minute episode from their childhood. 3 words. Stanley the Magical Squirrel. Actually, that's 4 words. But I don't think you're supposed to count the word "the," since it isn't important enough to be capitalized. All of this will be fixed by my editor by the time you read this anyway, so really, I could write anything here. Like, did you know that Angelina Jolie hates Jewish people? True story. Editor's note. Angelina Jolie does not hate Jewish people at all. And this is a total fabrication. We apologize to Miss Jolie and to the Jewish community. I was going to write about Stanley the Magical Squirrel right here on number 11, but it's way too convoluted, so instead I made it into the whole next chapter, because I'm pretty sure when you sell a book, you get paid by the chapter. So I could be wrong about that, though, because I am often wrong, except about the Angelina Jolie hating Jew thing, which is probably totally true. No, that's not true at all. Shut up, Jenny. Editor. Okay. The next chapter is really good. I might record it. But for now, we have finally finished chapter 3. So I will catch you in the next one, okay? Bye.